Okay, so in this video we're going to have a quick look at the Dow Jones long-term count. I did do a video on this on the 3rd of December 2017. As you can see here, it's only had 825 views, which is really interesting because it basically told you exactly what was going to happen over the course of 2018. Obviously, we're now in March 2019, so a little bit more price data. So let's take a look. So we're going to start off from the lows after the Great Depression in 1929 to 1931. This is basically the start of a massive super cycle count, right? So this is all super cycle wave 1, super cycle wave 2, super cycle wave 3 into 1970, where we had the stagflationary environment, super cycle wave 4, and now super cycle wave 5. And now we can actually label this for the first time as per their proper count. So we call this super cycle. Now, super cycle wave 5 obviously has got 5 cycle waves. So let me just take off this for the time being. Let's take off this short-term count. We'll get into the short-term count on the Dow in a minute. So that's super cycle wave 5. This will now have 5 waves. So that's wave 1 into 1987, the October 1987 crash within 3 days. That's cycle wave 2, cycle wave 3, expanded flat into the 2008 lows, and that will be cycle wave 5. So that's the lower degree. Now, cycle wave 5 of super cycle wave 5 obviously has got 5 primary waves. That's the next degree count. So the primary count is this: 1, 2 into the Greek crisis, 3 expanded flat floor into the December Christmas Eve 2018 crash lows, and then we're going to go up towards basically here, and that would then be a primary count. So let me just change the primary count to green. Let's change the cycle wave count to, I don't know, well, let's leave it at blue, and let's change the super cycle wave count to red. So basically it's 5 of 5 of 5. Now let's just go into a more minor wave count. Short term, what is going on now? Obviously everyone's waiting for some kind of deep correction. We're not really getting it. Almost certainly we're going to hit new highs before the end of the year, and some way, shape or form we're going to end up making a 5-wave sequence all the way up to this final top 4329. Now we've established this is going to be primary wave 5 of cycle wave 5 of super cycle wave 5, and this primary wave 5 obviously itself will have 5 waves: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will then be intermediate, and we can make that another color. Let's make it pink. And this is basically why it's such a big issue as to what's going to happen with the Dow. Now, people have been calling for this quote-unquote dollar collapse, economic crash, financial reset for quite some time, but really only Elliott wave technicians can understand exactly how this wave count is going to be established. Now, in terms of news, China trade deal, this, that, and the other, that doesn't really affect things. The only real fundamentals which affect the markets are what the Fed does. End off. Nothing else really affects the markets. Now, what the Fed does, that's not news per se, that's more fundamentals. Okay, so obviously to get this count towards 43,000, which I'm convinced is going to happen, the Fed will have to be quite dovish. They might even reduce interest rates and reduce the tightening on the balance sheet. So never forget that. The only thing which affects the markets in terms of news or fundamentals are what the Fed does. The Fed has consistently, their policy has affected the markets. Now, Fed policy aside, the Elliott wave count still gets us towards 43,209. Now, if this wave becomes extended, much like on Bitcoin or towards the NASDAQ highs in 2001, all the way over here, then we might even see 45,000, we might even see 50,000. But as you can see, it's wave 5 off wave 5, so it's going to be intermediate wave 5 for primary wave 5 of a cycle wave 5 of a super cycle wave 5, and this technically completes 1 grand super cycle. So all of this is 1 grand super cycle. All of that is 1 grand super cycle, and the crash is going to end up taking us to probably 2,000 or less. Then obviously we'll have a 3, 4, 5 in the future, but that will be a very, very large decline, and that will be on the grand cycle stage. So let's just well, there's no need to really draw it really. I mean, all that is grand super cycle wave 1. So on the Elliott wave count, let's just say something like that is going to happen, that would then be grand super cycle. Now, if you were to go back on the NYSE composite all the way before 1931 and go to 1792 when the first print on the NYSE was established, the way I'm reading it is that it's even worse than that, because it's probably almost a grand. Well, yeah. Let's not go into that. But yeah, it's multiple wave fives. It's at least 5 wave fives, if not a 6 wave 5. So yeah, it's going to be a very large decline when it does happen, and obviously the dollar is going to move towards 60, as per my video from many years ago. So become proficient with Elliott wave and you can know where things are going. So yes, very interesting times the next 5 years or so, if not before then. So as for short term, well, we're basically doing a replay of 1998 where everyone is waiting for some kind of large correction, but it's never going to happen. So as you saw here, this was the crash highs in 2001, the tech bubble high. As you can see here, we just kept on going higher and higher and higher. No real pullback until basically 3, 4, 5 months into it, and all we got was a 23.6 or a 38.2 pullback. Obviously, as we approached the top, then we started to get more overlappy as people were offloading. But we're basically doing a replay of this, and as you saw here, I mean, we bottomed out in August, in November. So within 3, 4 months, we were making all-time new highs relative to the highs in July. So this is basically what we're doing. We're just doing a fractal of 1998. So everyone's waiting for a big pullback. Probably won't happen. Obviously, any pullback is going to get bought, so just watch out for that. But ultimately, we are going to go higher towards this target, and then we're going to have that very large decline towards 2000. So have a look at my Elliott wave count. My Elliott wave tutorials on my Shopify store. You can join the Facebook group if you like. Just follow the links in the description below. And that's how bull markets end. Bull markets don't die of old age, they die of euphoria. Okay, so bull markets, they start on pessimism, they grow on skepticism, they mature on optimism, and they die of euphoria. As we found out with Bitcoin and the Nasdaq high, that's how bull markets die. Now, I believe summer of next year will be the longest in terms of time, and that would make sense because it's the end of so many degrees of wave 5. It would make sense that it would go on for that long. And like I said, if it's an extended wave, could even go higher than 43,000. But as of right now, assuming that there's no extension in this wave and it's relative to the wave 3 and the wave 2, once again, have a look at my Shopify store in regards to how to calculate this count. I see us going to 43,209 and then a large decline. So very interesting times in the next few years. Like I said, the only fundamentals that you need to be aware of is what the Fed are doing. Nothing else really matters. You know, in March 2019, there's a lot of talk about the shutdown, China trade deal, this, that, and the other. None of that matters. The only policy which affects the markets is what the Fed are doing, as we found out in 1970 when we came off the gold standard here, and basically baby boomers who were born after the Second World War, all they had to do was just buy a house and just basically wake up and breathe oxygen, and then they made money. And also there's a baby boomer issue in the fact that they're all retiring now. Anyone who was born in the 40s and 50s, they're basically at retirement age, and they have been so for the last 5-10 years, and they're offloading. I mean, they're basically taking their money and running away. So there are other fundamentals behind this. There's over 20 trillion, I believe, in pension funds across America anyway. So yeah, very interesting times. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. Hopefully you found that useful. Have a look at my other videos, and yes, there you go, final top 43209, and then we're going to get some fireworks.